Hey everyone, this is Rocky from WeLearnChess.com, and I'll make it 2 days in a row that we've got a live game here. Doing another 15-10 game on Chess.com. Got a higher rated opponent than yesterday, and he plays this Kan variation Sicilian, which I absolutely hate because I haven't figured it out at all. What black is trying to do and what I should do as white. I think bishop d3 is supposed to be the move when black allows it. Like if black plays knight c6 first, then you have to protect your knight first. Um, and then there's also these lines with bishop pins and maybe giving up a pawn and all sorts of crazy stuff. Sometimes the bishop comes out to c5 first, just kind of forcing this knight back to pass the square. Well, it's not totally forcing. I guess you could go to f3, but knight b3 at least wins a tempo on the bishop, then the bishop usually drops back. I mean, I think my idea is white should be to organize a kingside attack in these lines. Okay. So, just immediately trying to fiend shadow. I wonder if an early a4 is good. I mean, maybe I'll castle first, but a4, I'll probably push b4. I should probably get my pieces out first before I do that, huh? But even maybe challenging it. Before I do anything, I'll probably castle. And, I mean, he's not castling queenside, that's for sure, so, okay. I guess this locks in my bishop temporarily. I don't know if I want to go to f3 because I think I'm going to play for an early f-pawn push because I want to try to open the position. So I might actually go to b3. I almost wonder if there's even, like in some Sicilian lines, there's these funny, like knight takes b5, takes, bishop takes, but I don't get a check here out of that. I mean, I liquidated his queenside and I'm active. I open up two attackers on this d pawn. I don't think that's really I don't think I have to sacrifice here because he's so far behind in development that I should be able to do something. So okay, I'm gonna drop the knight back. He might try to crowd me a little more, but if he does, he's really playing with fire. I could play bishop out to e3 to give my knight a post to jump to here. Still have ideas of a4, I have ideas of f4. There's a lot of things here that look appealing. So I feel like already we're in a situation where I should look pretty carefully to try to see if I can maximize something out of this opening. I could play bishop g5 for the pin, but then he just plays bishop e7 and nothing special. I'd like to play f4 immediately. He gets a check with the queen if he wants, but not with the bishop. I like that he doesn't get a bishop check, because I can just take it with the knight on c5, because that would get him a gain of tempo and allow him a quick castling. Does the bishop or the queen b6 check? I wonder if that really gains him much. So it could be like queen check and allow him to go to a better square. But I'm going to play king h1 at some point anyway. I don't want to lose time. It's another reason not to move my bishop, my dark square bishop, because if I play for the f-pawn push, I might recapture with that anyway. The idea, I think, is to just try to open lines since he's behind in development. And also if I can open up this light square bishop at some point too. Could just develop knight c3, but it's a little slower than I'd like to. So if I can play the f-pawn, there's an exchange here maybe, get my bishop out, and then maybe get my knight. Could think about either square here. So I'm going to do it. I assume he'll play the check as it helps him develop a little bit. But it just feels principled to try to open some lines given his um, almost ridiculous development. But I feel like that happens a lot in these con lines where black just like dilly dallies around forever and somehow he's not completely obliterated. But I think black has to be careful. Like I think there's a lot of lines where black is perfectly fine, and this might even be one of them, for all I know. But if black isn't careful, then I feel like destruction could happen in some of these con variations. So we'll see what happens, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, if these ideas that I'm talking about here are in any way, shape, or form reasonable. They seem reasonable, but that's one of the cool things about looking at the analyses afterwards. Is just, you know, I mean, it's always better to have if you have a chess coach or a master explaining stuff to you. I'd like to have one handy, but at the moment, all I have is Stockfish. So, um, yeah, I mean, trying to get some answers to your questions. I think that's one of the cool things about the computer programs. It's not always so straightforward because sometimes the computer lines, like the ones they recommend, are these long tactical variations that, like these brute force variations that humans probably wouldn't play, like either yourself or your opponent wouldn't play, even if you're playing really high rated people. But in a lot of cases, you can sort of get some clarity as to why a move was better after you play around a bit. Well, anyway, I've got him thinking here. I should probably think about what I'm going to do. So if he captures, okay, we'll get the check first. So, okay, well, I can't block it with anything, so it's okay. I kind of expected that. I'm just hoping that I didn't miss anything here. The thing that, well, yeah, that probably did help him, but I didn't want to play King H1 first on my own. Okay. Wow. So I guess his idea is that if I take and he takes, then he's still keeping this bishop kind of locked in, and that's a fair point. Another point is that I could actually play for f5 and just use all of this space. Like, my light square bishop will end up sort of being a tall pawn for a lot of this game, but after I get all of my pieces around, it might eventually come to life. And I can live rooks and move my queen over. So I wonder if I should just develop here and just prepare my pieces for battle, because I don't know if taking really helps here. Let's see, takes. What is my follow-up? The thing that taking does help me with is it does give me a square on c5, potentially. But his bishop and queen will be holding that for a long time. I could also play queen f3 with the idea of getting a tempo move with the bishop. I don't have to do anything with this tension at the moment, right? I mean, I assume his next move is going to be bishop e7, unless he wants to be one of those really infuriating con players and like mess around with the queen side. But let's see. I kind of like the idea of queen f3. Maybe I should develop my knight first. But I like the idea of queen f3 because after I get my bishop out, then I at least have the flexibility to decide, do I want to play knight c3 or knight d2. Especially if he's going to stick this bishop on the diagonal, maybe it would be nice to have the knight at a more stable square here where it's not going to get bumped from the protection of e4 for a while. There's so many things to consider. I could even try lifting a rook. It's probably a little early for that, though. I'm going to try this. Well, actually, wait a second. Queen f3, he can play bishop g4 with a gain of time, but I don't think he wants his bishop over there. Another move that I have to be careful about that I always forget about and I just looked at is this stupid knight move. It's not stupid because it's actually pretty effective. But there's even ideas of like playing the knight out to g4 and then getting this check in, which is sort of threatening the smothered mate pattern, so then you end up having to give an exchange. So h3 is an idea, but that's a little slower. There's probably another move I can play where... I mean, even if I play queen f3, and let's say he does play the bishop out here, and I just kind of maybe move my queen over, then not only am I holding this square, but also he wouldn't have the square for his knight because his bishop's taking it. So yeah, I'm gonna play this. I don't think he wants to play bishop g4. I think he wants to play bishop b7. And now, well, actually that was stupid because now he can play knight g4 because now my bishop e3 he can just take it. Arr. Although if he plays knight g4 now, then he won't have the check because I'll just take twice. So probably he should just play bishop e7. Although what about, I didn't think about d5. d5, if I take, then he gets a pawn fork. But he doesn't have enough pieces supporting the pawn fork yet, so at least for one more move I'm okay. Although once he plays bishop b7, then maybe I do have to take to avoid that d5 pawn fork idea. Or I don't have to take. Maybe I can play. Maybe I can play bishop c3 in that case. Just more support to this square. c4 square. Yeah, I'm trying to think of moves where I can gain a tempo with a threat. I still should go back to looking at a4 too, I think. I feel like that's a thematic move in a lot of these lines with the early b5 moves. But having said that, I feel like the focus of my play is eventually going to be over here on the king side, so I'd like to try to start organizing my pieces over here. And I'm not entirely sure about all the a4, b4 stuff, so I wonder if he's maybe looking at d5, or maybe he's just thinking about whether this this bishop g4 move, I'm sorry, makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so I don't really want to offer a queen trade, so I'm ruling out these. I want to try to attack him, and I feel like maybe his bishop's going to be misplaced here. So what about bishop g3? I mean, he can't attack with an iron now because his bishop's hanging. So I feel like this should be okay. If takes with the bishop, and I've got some pressure here on this square. I still feel like bishop e7 was a better square for this bishop in the long run, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing something that he sees that I don't. But now I'm going to feel less pressure on e4 for a while. So my next idea is bishop e3 to gain a tempo here. So he gained a tempo with the queen check, but maybe in the long run he's going to lose this. Okay, so he's trying to provoke maybe this move here. Let's gain a tempo, and if he plays h4, then I can drop the queen back here. Now I want to get my knight out after this. Now the question is, do I want to take this and open up lines? I don't know how many lines it opens. It opens the F file. That's good. I feel like I should already be looking for some things. Maybe knight c3 makes more sense, so that I have these ideas of knight takes b5, bishop takes b5, check. I don't know how much that really gains me, though. So, is he planning to play h4, where I can't take the h-pawn, I can't take his bishop, I move my queen, and then he maybe even plays h3? If I play h3, I assume he just leaves the bishop there for the stupid fishing pole thing. But at the moment, I've got this dark square diagonal covered. So maybe h3 makes sense. And even if he plays h4, he's still going to have to move in a moment. And after he moves his bishop, then I can think about taking on e5, and then maybe even later playing bishop g5 anyway, just because I'll have pressure on the f file. Other options are knight c3, just developing. I think that makes more sense than knight d2 before he can play something like b4. But I feel like I should insert this move. I don't know in the end. Yeah, I've kind of figured that much. So all the way back, or I want to stay on the f file, I think, and on this diagonal. Just because if he does try this stupid fishing pole trap, I might actually be able to take it. Just because, well, first of all, if he plays h3, I can play g3. And if anything, I might be the one getting an attack. He hasn't committed to kingside castle, though, so I do have to be a little bit careful before I start some variations. Okay, so maybe now I want to play knight c3 just to try to slow down d5, or should I take first? Or should I play f5? f5 maybe takes. Then does he have d5? He probably does. I should probably play knight c3 first. And again, I don't really... I mean, I'm tempted to open lines a little bit, but I don't know how many lines it really opens, because I'm kind of stuck with my pieces here. And it might even help him develop his bishop a little bit more. I'm going to go for development. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 minor, all 4 minor pieces out. My f rook is already close to being active. My queen's close to being active. And my other rook can come over pretty easily. The one thing that I lost with this h3 move is that I can't really lift a rook as easily. It's hard to, lift a rook up and over. But he's still got to figure some things out too. I mean, if he takes this knight, okay, he can do that. So now I really want to look for something here where at least I should be able to get some positional gain here. If there's not even an outright tactic, I don't know. Probably not a tactic, huh? That rook is loose in the a8 corner, but I didn't really put anything on that diagonal. So candidate moves f5, which either forces another bishop retreat, or he takes my knight on b3, which I'm not too upset about because it's probably my worst minor piece. Doesn't have an easy future, although it could go to d2, over to f3, and then up to g5. That's interesting. I can play rook ad1, just kind of keeping an eye on the d file. But let's see. Let me see. F takes e. D takes e. Maybe bishop g5, which puts 2 pieces on the h-pawn. At least that comes with a threat. And it opens up the f file. I think I'm going to go with this now. I don't know if it's a great idea, because I liked sort of having that option of maybe f5 at some point, but that would really close things too. So Is there a downside to bishop g5? Maybe he takes this knight, which is guarding the c5 square. Takes, and then bishop here, forcing my queen to move. And then my queen wouldn't... I could drop back. I could drop back. What else do I have here? The bishop, the knight maneuver is interesting. Rook a d1 is probably useful. But I'm not sure exactly what's squared up with this rook on yet. I'm going to try this. Well, actually, wait a second here. I also have bishop b6. Then maybe rook over. Because if I can get this queen off this c-file, then maybe I can get a knight up in here to c5. Then if he takes with the bishop, he wouldn't be able to castle. Let's see, bishop b6, where's he going to put the queen? Maybe just over on b7. But then, oh, then the knight move, then I can't play because he's on my bishop. And I'd be cutting off the communication between my queen and my bishop. Alright, I'm going to try this. It also puts more pressure on the f6 square. Wow, I'm down to 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Oh my goodness. That was not bright. If he moves the knight, and I take the bishop and he takes, I can get a knight to c5, which threatens to take his light square bishop and puts more pressure on the f-file. And at the moment, he's got to think about the pawn. And most Kan players, in my opinion, or at least in my experience that I've seen so far, they're more positionally oriented. Because it's like especially if he's not playing the bishop pin variations and poison pawn variations and stuff, then, which are really sharp lines, or at least I feel like they're sharper. He's playing like these slower positional approaches, so he's probably going to be worried about his pawn. The long story short is what I meant to say. So like solid positional players, a lot of times they just can't. They do everything in their power not to give up a pawn a lot of times, I feel like. At least at levels where I play at. I mean, obviously higher players know how to deal with things better, but for that reason he might be looking at that variation before that I was talking about. Bishop takes. I would probably take with the a-pawn to open up some pressure on the a-file. Bishop c5, queen e1, I suppose, so supporting e4, keeping the pressure here. I don't quite see how he is able to keep that pawn. So maybe going back to the idea of maybe moving the knight, and then I take his bishop. This knight would actually, yeah, okay, something crazy. But the problem here is that I should be able to do something here. Okay, so man, he's got f7 covered that bishop. That's really annoying. But even takes. Then maybe knight here. It's hard for him to trade because then I've got pressure here. I mean, he could do it. Can I move my queen somewhere where it's useful? No. Can I? Okay, I think I'm going to take this. Also, my time's getting down. We have an increment here, but this it's unfortunate that I didn't think about that continuation because now I might have some weaknesses here to deal with. Okay, now I've got bishop c5 as an interesting point to just take this bishop. He does have that rank covered at the moment. I can jump in here, takes, position starts to open. But I want to put this knight to good use while I can. Oh, he can take this pawn, huh? He can just take this pawn. But not if I play here. I have to start activating here. was really a shame that I walked into that tactic. And if he can't take this pawn at the moment, then it's hard for him to. Well, yeah, he could play his h3 pawn push, because if I take, but I can always play g3 and try to keep a little shelter that way. I just hate when I let myself, like the way he was playing around with his development, I should have really punished it somehow, I feel like. And maybe that was my mistake, trying to look for a way to punish it so much, but in the end, it's just a shame that it's my king that might be might be less safe. It just feels totally unjust. Yeah, just trying to take here. Takes. Do I have any forks? I could also play this knight here. If he takes the pawn, I must have something. Let's see. I could move my queen just for the moment, but then I won't be able to play this knight here. And I'd like to be able to play this knight here, but still he'll be able to trade queens after that. Knight here, bishop takes here. Then would I be able to block this, interfere with this queen somehow? So that I could play this to f7 here. What about knight to b4 over here? He's got the knight covering it still at the moment. I'm going to hold on to this pawn for a second, partially because I don't have a lot of time, but also now if he plays for h3, I can take, bolstering my pawn shelter, and then maybe getting my king a little safer here. Sorry about that. I think I just hit the mic. So, if he develops his knight somewhere, I might be able to think about this idea, but it's kind of slow. I've got to find a way to get some play here so that he doesn't untangle. He's already getting active, and I haven't made use of the positional gains that I might have had, small ones out of the opening. So let's see. What else can I do here? What's he probably going to do? I don't think he's going to castle. He might even consider just leaving his king in the middle or trying to do some crazy castling long. I guess his next move will probably show his intentions a little more clearly. And if he takes my knight, then that opens up some play here. If he plays a knight move over, maybe he's... It would be interesting, maybe knight c6 trying to get in here to d4, to this hole. But I do have c3. Yeah. Okay, so he's also got knight b4 ideas, so I could just try to block out his knight, but I'm losing another tempo here. He might play rook to d8 with the idea of just taking here, but for the moment I've got it covered. This also covers this square. This square is covered a lot of times, so I guess it probably didn't matter. Let's block out this knight. At the moment, he can't come in for the queen trade because of this knight, but I guess if he takes, then actually he probably could. Now I probably should play my rook to the d file, although maybe having a rook on the e file would be interesting. In the end, I feel like I'm just letting him consolidate here, though, and he probably could just castle kingside. I'm really wondering if he's thinking about castling queenside, but I feel like that's... I mean, I could understand why, but I don't know if it will work. And maybe I should have developed a little more first before the f-pawn push, but I feel like if I had looked up a little more accurately, I would have been able to do something. Okay, so I don't want to help him by trading here. If he takes that, I'm going to get another tempo on the bishop, so he's going to have to play one more move like rook a d8 here to that. So I'm going to prepare this here, just so that if he plays the rook over, I can drop the bishop back, and takes it'll still gain me a tempo. If he ever takes this queen off this square, I can jump right in with the knight, and now his knight is blocking the communication with the f-pawn. So if I can get this bishop to move somehow, some way, then could be delicate for him. Although I guess he always could drop his bishop back to f6 and block the f-file like that. But yeah, I kind of stumbled into that tactic where I let my whole position go, basically. Okay, he was just thinking about developing here. That's interesting. So maybe he will take that knight and then try to come over. So yeah, maybe he's just thinking about leaving his king this center. I could drop the knight back and bring it up here to this nice square. And maybe that's an idea here, but dropping it back, he can just take it, so it's certainly not a good idea, that's for sure. Here he would get a tempo on my bishop. I'd like to open up the d-file here. And I've got to do something with this knight. Oh, I can play over here now, actually. Knight a5 with ideas of coming in here. But he could just move the queen over, right? Oh, he just doesn't really have a spot to attack it at the moment. Although he could take this knight first, but I feel like I should be able to. This I'd like to. When he comes in here, he's going to get a tempo on the bishop. But I want to play for activity here, so I was kind of torn there. I mean, if he takes my bishop for the knight, that might actually help me, because this bishop's not doing a lot. So. See what he's got in store, and I'm down to a minute now. I mean, it is a 10-second increment. That's actually not that much. So the knight coming in here and then putting some pressure on this pawn, but he can cover that pawn a couple different ways. So even here, maybe takes, knight takes, or bishop takes. But trying to get this queen, this bishop off this f7 square is proving difficult. Okay. Maybe I should drop the bishop back now. Let's see. I'm going to play b4. I'm just going to make a useful move for the moment. Oh, actually here. Then I'm vulnerable to pins. Takes here, and then maybe a push. But I'd like to get this bishop to this square too, so trying to challenge his bishop's control of f7, or force him to, not force him, but maybe entice him to take. The only thing about going here is that I do take away a square from my knight, so he could think about attacking it. So I do have to be careful, actually. I'm playing with fire here because I have a very weak backwards pawn, but my idea is just to try to get an outpost here. Maybe knight back and over to b5 to cover up this weakness. At the moment the queen's got it, but although he might have a tactic here. Let's see. Well, if he takes this knight with the bishop, then he doesn't have as much pressure here. There's a lot to look at here, and it's a shame that I didn't leave enough time, but maybe just getting this knight into play is an interesting idea. The bishop also would be good here too, which is what I originally thought, but I like that the knight would kind of make it difficult to get at the c-pawn, unless he wants to drop this back, yeah. Okay. Maybe he's going to play over here. Oh, hold on a second. I can win the queen. so I'll do that. Okay, well, he caught a tactic early and he gave me one here. That was the fastest move he made in the whole game. He made that without thinking. He just wanted to win this pawn. You got greedy with your pawn grabbing. Now hopefully I am not going to get silly here. We still have time issues in this game, but hopefully I'll be able to make some moves. I want to play bishop here. I want to get rid of one of his bishops. He did get two pieces there for the queen, so it's not like it's totally over. Yeah. Just try to get a piece over to d5. This pawn is hanging, actually. I could have just taken that. Okay, what's he doing? Forks? I don't know. Take this while I can. Then just drop back. Makes it harder for him to break up my pawns here. 125, see if we can bank some time here. Knight covers a square here. Could play rook in this way, that's kind of annoying. There's pressure on the g-pawn. It is actually kind of annoying. Oh, I can play rook up maybe. Rook check over. Should be okay. Okay, just trying to anchor that knight in, that makes sense. What about rook here? I'm not losing a pawn, am I? Gotta move more quickly. This knight's holding this pawn temporarily. Okay. What about here? Takes. Just improving this bishop here. Trade should be good for me. Kind of hard for him not to trade. If he drops back, then I can play the knight back and challenge this knight. Yeah, oh, do I have actually a... Ooh, knight here. Rook moves maybe over here. Knight here. Got two pieces here, but then... Oh, then my knight could come in with check here. But, do I have to be that fancy? What if I can just get rid of his knight? Where's his knight going? Backwards? I could just take the bishop too, huh? I could just take that bishop. No need to get too fancy, just take it. Take it, my friends. Okay. Just challenge this again, maybe he'll double. Probably he'll double. Let's get rid of one of these. Okay, now, can we just play this here? Oh, I don't have the rook actually to help with this pawn now. That was actually pretty stupid. And I've got weak pawns now. Just trying to move too fast, I guess. It's actually going to be a little more difficult than I thought. I'll have to use these queenside pawns, but I just gave one up, I think. Oh, maybe queen over. He might win this g-pawn, and he's got this h-pawn, which is going to be really annoying. Could drop the bishop back. So yeah, that is kind of annoying. Okay. Why did I do that? He's going to get this pawn here. I want to keep these queenside pawns because the passed pawns are going to be pretty strong. Oh, he can go here. Oh no, I can take it with the rook. Okay. Okay, so he's going to get some activity, but I got to start pushing these passed pawns. I gotta make him concentrate on defense. I mean, I'm on this pawn, but I'm not really so interested in that right now. I want to get pressure. probably push b5 first. Okay. I gotta watch out checks here. I gotta watch that I don't get mated, actually. Moving this e-pawn. Yeah, I gotta be really careful, actually. He could mate me in the corner if I'm not careful. If he pushes this pawn now, yeah, he's going for it. Okay, so why am I allowing this nonsense here? I just need some kind of route for my king here. He could push, actually, but at least this diagonal's temporarily closed. If he takes bishop here, then I can run with my king a little bit. And I've got to move fairly quickly here. He's also got pawns that could potentially queen here. Should I take with the queen? No, probably not. Gotta get this king out of here. At least the h-pawn's gone. Forks, where are the forks? All over the place. He's got a check, but I've got it covered. Check here. I can even consider taking with the queen. Takes, rook takes. He's up a piece, but these pawns are going to be beastly. But I probably don't have to do that. Takes here. Just maybe a safe square. Check here. I've got that covered. Yeah, maybe just queen f or king f3 in that case. Okay, what's he trying to win my queen or something? Possibly. Check, I've got to go backwards. My queen's not currently on a forking square, but got to be really careful. Check, check here. Is that mate? Did I just get mated? Do I really only have one square here? Is that, are you kidding me? I just got mated. That's unbelievable. You probably win this queen clean out by with a rook check or something. Rook check. Yeah, I've got to leave the defense of the queen. Yeah. My only hope now is getting a new queen, but this is how to not play chess from both sides. We both played like complete and total morons. I still might get mated. Oh, I'm mated in one. Oh no, I can block it with the okay, well. Now I'm mated in one. Oh my goodness. Just rook h1 mate. Yeah. Okay. I'll say good game, although we both were total morons. Let's put the analysis on and see. It'll be interesting to see how we could have improved here. So I'll put this on pause, and then when the analysis comes back, we can take a look. All right, everyone, I'm back here. I'm gonna try this video a little bit differently. This analysis a little bit differently than yesterday. Yesterday's I opened up in Stockfish, so I got the chess.com computer analysis back. I did look at it briefly in Stockfish too, and I went through it a little bit, so hopefully I'll remember all the computer variations. It would be cool if chess.com showed you, like, if you could look at the analysis in the PGN. Maybe there's a way to do that. But okay, let's up to here. The chess.com analysis said it was book. I think b5 was a little early. But okay, so here's the first interesting moment, and for some reason here, I don't know why, I did not consider at all knight f5, and this sometimes happens, like in Philidor positions, where you'll have a chance to move the knight, but this pawn will already be on d6, so a lot of times the bishop can just take it, which isn't even all that bad sometimes to have a doubled f pawn, because sometimes it helps you attack. But Yeah, this is already strong. This is the first point where I could have taken advantage of black's pawn moves in the opening, because this knight puts some pressure on this g7 square. And now how is exactly black going to try to get out of this? I mean, probably the computer's recommendation is something like this. Actually, I'm not sure why the computer doesn't recommend knight e7, except that maybe white doesn't have to trade, and then it's just like a little bit awkward development. Oh, maybe then the bishop pin is stronger, actually. Yeah, the bishop pin is probably stronger if the knight's here on e7. So the computer recommends this, and then after the pin, it's a little bit awkward here. I mean, if the bishop goes here, you've got this check. So what to do? The computer recommends kicking the knight here. Knight comes back, but now the knight's ready to come up in here and put more pressure on this this square here. So for some reason, the computer recommends going here rather than coming into fianchetto. But why wouldn't you be able to do this? Is it just because you have queen f3 coming too? Just too many pieces at once? Yeah, that's probably it, because of queen f3. So that's why the bishop goes over here. But then you can prevent castling, and at the very least, it's going to be a lot tougher for black than it was in the game. So I missed this chance in the opening to exploit these pawn moves. So I played too passive here. b3 is a common post in Sicilian games, but it doesn't mean it's always a good one. It's often actually a crappy post for the knight. He's got to move around at some point and go to a better square. But okay, the f4 move was a little premature. The computer actually like c4 here, and in a couple of positions was calling for a4 early too, just to create some weaknesses here that either the pawns could be attacked or creating some other weak squares where pieces could jump into. And this is a theme that I still haven't really fully I haven't played it enough to gain experience with trying to play off these weaknesses, and I should, because I think it's oftentimes a very good move to play a4 in these early b5 pushes. But I'm not sure when to time them and what to follow up with. So if you have some experience with that, it'd be great if you could share. If you want to make a post to add to the blog, you're welcome to be a contributor. Just send me your idea, and we can make a post out of it, and you can be the author of that post. So okay, so okay, so yeah, this is forced, obviously, and here, this is all sort of okay. The computer didn't really have a big problem with any of this. This here was sort of letting him a little bit in the game, but okay. And he's got these two bishops now. It's kind of annoying. But we come to another interesting point. This also wasn't too great. I forget what the computer's recommended move here was. But we'll get to another interesting point here where he offers the queen trade. I didn't see at all that I could jump into b6 and win an exchange. It's not it's not the end of the world for him. He's got the two bishops. He's got an active position. I've got a weak king. Does he have a pawn here too? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, no, but he's definitely got some activity. So this would have been interesting, and then maybe after castle's just taking, and then we play that position. Still, it's another chance that I had to definitely gain some sort of long-term advantage, just having the extra rook and getting to these open files. And especially if I hadn't lost one of my bishops, then winning the exchange would have been even better. But maybe we wouldn't have gotten to that position. So, okay, so I didn't see that. And this was too slow, but okay. So, I mean, we're move 21, and he hasn't castled yet. I mean, it's like totally infuriating. But okay, this wasn't best play, of course, by me. So when did he finally castle? This is what kills me. Move 24. I mean, when you're putting him castle on move 24 and you haven't punished him in some way, or you haven't gained something out of it, it means that you really missed some opportunities, I think. And that was definitely the case, because I missed at least 2 of them here in the opening. Okay, so I win the queen. The computer only gives me like a 1.5 pawn advantage here. I mean, I did have to give up the rook and a piece for this. But what the computer wanted me to try to do, instead of playing over here with the bishop, was actually to come in with the queen to f5, which is kind of interesting because it plays on a couple of ideas where if this pawn ever moves, then I've got pressure up this diagonal, and if it doesn't, then I can get pressure on f7 for even something like if he wanted to jump his knight in here, I can actually take this, and then I can play e5 with the tempo, and then after the bishop can't drop back because I've got a mate threat, so I'm actually getting this piece here. But which we'll go out here. So he wouldn't do that. So what is he gonna do here? I mean, I'm starting to look at. There's a lot of pieces that are starting to look here. At f7, I can move this bishop over to look here. Even this knight might be able to do something with coming back in here if he lets me. Like if he had to move this knight back to h8 to guard f7 even further, then I could get another piece there. So that's a lot of arrows. I forget what the computer's recommended defense was. Maybe it was something like this to look at this knight. Something like this. Oh, and then advancing this pawn with more potential pressure here. So maybe something like this, or maybe taking this knight first. I think maybe they took the knight first. Something like this. Probably here. And now Black's position's a lot more cramped, and this is obviously, it's going to be harder for him to play with this pressure here. So I missed that opportunity too. So this is really a game of back and forth blunders. I mean, I would say his opening choice wasn't a blunder. It just was. It gave me opportunities, but I failed to take advantage of them. And I can understand why people play this con, because although if you're not precise with your move order, you do open up opportunities like I had. They're not always so easy to see. It's not like an explosive tactic or something like that. You just have to play precisely as white as well. So maybe it's harder for them at lower levels to get really punished for what they do. But people play it at high levels too, and non-played it plenty of times, right? So some other players like it too. So okay, anyway, I allowed this activity. I didn't play queen f5, which was, a way to really kind of seal this. And here with a couple trades, I just was getting a little bit lazy, but this is all still okay. This is still okay. This is still okay. Even this is okay. I have idea is also the right idea, but I have to play really precisely. And here, allowing this check was a big problem, so I shouldn't have allowed this. So that's why queen c3 was better here. I get it now. Okay, because it's covering the e1 square. Okay. So yeah, so something like this, if he takes and then you start pushing, now he doesn't have this check immediately, and if he doesn't have the check immediately, he's not getting this mating pressure, and now he's got to scramble to try to get this pawn, because he's not getting to move the e pawn with tempo like he did, and if he can't do that, he's got to move the rook here first of all, so that he can move this pawn. Okay, he would have an attack on the queen actually, although I wonder if I could even consider, depending on how close my pawn is to queening, to even taking it. But okay, that probably wouldn't be the solution. But this is a lot slower for him, obviously, and I'm not in as much danger. So this move here, and I think I moved a little too quickly here. This basically put me in a lot of problems at the end. So, I mean, just because I have a queen doesn't mean that I should always be the one with the advantage. I mean, I should have, of course, but he does have three pieces, and you can create nice mating attacks with these three, especially when you have pawn support like he did here. And kudos to him. He found the right moves when I opened up the possibility. We had similar time, so I can't say. I mean, I didn't do well under the time pressure. He did a lot better than me under the time pressure. So okay. So anyway, yeah. Then we saw sort of what happened at the end, where it was just sort of. I guess I basically gave up here at the end once I saw that I had stumbled into this mate here. This was queen here, right? Okay. Yeah, and then once I allowed this check, it was a big problem. So this actually probably sealed my fate. I thought it was helping me, but it wasn't. This is the only move here, and now here there's probably some way to save it. I think the computer wanted me to just move the queen over immediately to try to protect against the stuff. But now, once I played this move, I was just lost. Here, if I move over here, he's got this mate. So that was the only other move. And then I don't really know what else I have. So I'm basically just lost here in the end. But yeah, back and forth game of where he didn't play a great opening. I didn't play a great opening. I didn't play a great. He took advantage of sort of a bad move where I tried for what I thought was a sharp response, but he found a good tactic and kind of kept the game equal. Then I missed some tactics with a knight b6, and then he blundered his queen, and then I blundered the game back. So a typical game at my level, I guess, where just like poor play on both sides. But it was an interesting game to look at, especially with the points of one in the opening of trying to take advantage of some of the weaknesses, and two, how I could have finished off my opponent if I had not gotten probably a little bit too relaxed. That often happens when you win a queen, so always remember that, especially if you have to give like a rook for it and another piece. So, all right, well, I hope you enjoyed that game, and see you next time.